Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome back to this week's edition of Diamond Chat, courtesy of Dr. Karen Kramer in Grafton. Again, a huge thank you to Dr. Kramer for sponsoring this week in and week out on WEOL.com, on the WEOL Facebook page, and, of course, on the Chronicle Telegram Facebook page and online with the CT as well. Tim Alcorn with AM 930 WEOL, Shaun Bennett from the Chronicle Telegram. And, Shaun, before we throw things over to Bruce Bishop behind the camera, how about a great big thank you to everybody out there who tuned this in for Week 1. Boy, our Diamond Chat numbers for Week 1 were very impressive.
Yeah, and like I said, less than a week after we had filmed that debut episode, we're at about 450 views and climbing. So as you're watching this, feel free to go back and watch that one again. We'd like to get up to 500, 600, whatever you want to get us there. So, yeah, thanks a lot for all that.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And again, if you're watching this via Twitter or via Facebook, make sure to retweet it or make sure to share it. Let's get the video out there. And again, it's great to support the young men playing high school baseball and, of course, the young girls out there on the diamond playing high school softball. Well, as we mentioned, the guy behind the camera is Bruce Bishop, and Bruce is going to take part in these weekly Diamond Chats. So, Bruce, we're going to throw it to you. You've got some topics on your mind for Shaun and I, so here we go. Let's go at it.
That's right, boys. I'm the keeper of the clock because, as people know from our videos, we like to get going sometimes. So I'm going to keep you guys at 1 minute each per topic as we go along.
All right, fair enough.
All right, so let's get started with, as I'm scrubbing assignments off the book today for our photographers, there's always talk about the season and whether or not it should be moved to fall. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll start with this. You always hear about baseball and softball at the high school level, especially in Northeast Ohio. Should they be moved to a fall sport? And then, of course, you'd have to have a corresponding sport in the fall move into spring sports. And the reason you hear it is because of the nasty weather. Oh, boy, we've been dealing with this for the past couple of weeks here in Northeast Ohio. I, for one, as much as you hear a lot of chat about it, I don't think it's ever going to happen. I just think there's too many obstacles, and yes, fans don't like going out there and sitting in nasty cold weather for baseball and softball, and it can be pretty miserable as far as a sports writer and a sports broadcaster is concerned as well. But I just think there's too many obstacles, and as much as you do hear some chat about it, Shaun, I don't think it's ever going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. From a media standpoint, I wouldn't mind being in the warm weather for the bulk of the season, but the most important games are played usually at the end, so it might be the reverse problem there in the fall where at the end of the season when you're ready to play sectionals, district, regional, state, you're talking about potential cold rain, snow maybe.
Right.
You don't want that. Plus, on the softball standpoint, I have a daughter that plays softball. You're then talking about the travel season. That's a big in the fall. Teams are playing, doing their travel tryouts. They're playing their fall tournaments with their travel ball, and that's super important as far as potential recruiting for college, things like that. A lot of college coaches go and watch travel tournaments and things like that, especially those fall tournaments. So I think that might actually damage high school softball if they were going to make that move and go into the fall season as well. So a lot of girls might actually choose travel ball over high school, and that would definitely hurt the numbers as far as high school softball goes.
So I think the consensus is, at least from Shaun and I, you're never going to see that change. So just suck it up, stay warm when you're out there in April. The weather will warm up in May.
Look at this, both of you coming under time on the first question. That's kind of impressive. All right. So impressive is going to be, we're continuing with Shaun's theme of super impressive.
Super impressive.
Let's talk about what teams are off to fast starts. And Tim, go.
All right, I'll do it with baseball. Boy, the Amherst Comets got off to a great start. They were 4-0, although on Monday they went over to Midview. They got beat by the Midview Middies in a Southwestern Conference game 4-1, it dropped Amherst to 4-1 with their first loss of the year. But Amherst off to a great start. I know in our Week 1 edition of Diamond Chat, we talked about the fact that Matt Rossitano has a great baseball program. They're expected to be one of the top teams not only in Lorain County and Northeast Ohio this year. So even though they had that tough loss over at Midview, Amherst off to a terrific start at 4-1 on the year. Boy, the Brookside Cardinals, there's a bit of a surprise. 3-0 on the year. Didn't win a lot of games last season, but they're off to a nice start this year. The Cardinals with that 3-0 start, so certainly they have to be happy as far as how their season has got rolling. And we also alluded to the fact last week, Jeff Keck over at Vermilion, he's got an outstanding high school baseball program. Sailors, 4-0, so a great start for Vermilion.
Obviously, some good performances as well from on the softball side. Not very surprising. Elyria, already undefeated at 2-0. Keystone putting up some big wins as well. They're undefeated. Amherst, they're only lost to Keystone in kind of a throw-together game early in the season, but come back with a big, somewhat surprising, lopsided win over Midview to start Midview's season opener actually. They split the coverage, or they split the conference championship in the Southwestern Conference last year, so a lot of people kind of thought they were going to be battling in some tight games, but Amherst comes away with 11-0 win in 5 innings. So obviously a great start for them. They're up against some heavyweights this weekend as well. So in North Canton, Hoover, and Massillon Perry. So Amherst is putting up a tough schedule, and they're starting off strong with their tests early.
If I can jump in on that real quick, we talked last week. Lacey Reichert does a phenomenal job with the Amherst program. They've got a great pitcher in Madison Oberg. So Lady Comets, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Bruce, fire away.
Let's talk about some teams that are doing a little bit of traveling this year. We've got people going all over the place.
Well, this kind of ties into what we talked about in our first topic, the miserable weather that baseball and softball teams have to put up with as far as Northeast Ohio is concerned in late March and early April. So this year, the good thing was spring break for several schools coincided with the early part of the softball and baseball season. On the baseball side, I know Eddie Piazza took the Elyria High Pioneers on the road. They're going to Myrtle Beach to play some baseball down there. And ironically, the Keystone Lady Wildcats are also in Myrtle Beach on the softball side. So I think Shaun and I can kind of tackle this topic together. You just can't get games in or enough games early on as far as the season is concerned, or at least you run the risk of having several games get wiped out. So when spring break falls at a time where you can get south and get some games in, it's a great experience for the kids, and they get games in. They get some contests in.
Yeah, and the high school spring break centers around Easter, the Easter holiday, and since Easter is constantly moving, sometimes that spring break happens in mid-March or something like that, and obviously it's still preseason for these two sports as far as the spring goes. So it's good thinking by these schools, the coaches, the athletic directors, to recognize that the spring break is going to happen after the season begins. They make those plans, they do the fundraising, and they're taking these trips. Elyria Pioneers softball team down in Florida at the Beach Blast tournament. Like you mentioned, the other two teams in Myrtle Beach. Smart thinking. They're down there. They're playing the games while everybody up here is sitting in the middle of the cold, drenching rain in these muddy fields. It's nice to see that these teams, and it's not just Lorain County. There's teams I've heard from all over Northeast Ohio down south playing softball and baseball right now. So kudos to them to getting down there and finding a solution to Ohio's weather problem.
And by the way, kudos to the athletic directors and the coaches and the chaperones. Logistically, that's a challenge. You're putting teams on buses. You're getting them down there. You've got to get them housed. You've got to get them fed. You've got to get them to the ballpark. There's a lot of work that goes into that. So hats off to everybody involved, not just the players.
Yeah, the Lorain Pioneers flew down.
Right.
So you're talking about some real organization to get that going.
Look at you guys extending your time. You've both finished up on time and then managed to still go along anyway.
That's the play-by-play, and then we added the color combination.
Exactly. All right.
There you go.
So I know that the pitchers are still kind of, for baseball in particular, are still getting kind of warmed up for this season, but let's talk about some strong outings that we've had already.
Well, certainly we talked about some of the teams that are off to good starts. I know for Vermilion, they've gotten some great pitching performances early on to get to 4-0 on the year. We talked before we were rolling here, a performance put together by Leighton Banjoff over at Elyria Catholic. They got a nice win earlier this week. Leighton in that ball game had a double, a triple. He had a save. He's an outstanding pitcher. In fact, he's heading to Nebraska, just like last year's teammate, Abrahamowitz. So Leighton Banjoff had an outstanding early season performance. Connor Bancic over at Midview, we're going to talk about him in just a minute, but he had a walk-off hit for the Midview Middies. So certainly as far as outstanding performances early on, those guys would grab my attention.
Softball side, I mean, there's not a lot of games, but a lot of good, big performances, and my memory skills aren't perfect, so I just jotted down some notes. In the game against Amherst win over Midview, Lorain County 2 for 2 with a home run. Lindsay Reeve, two freshmen for Amherst. You figure Amherst already got enough skill players coming back. They got 2 freshmen that just went nuts. Lindsay Revis 3 for 3 with 2 RBIs and 3 runs. Mackenzie Cornwell 2 for 2 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs. Wellington big win over Black River with multiple hits. Brooklyn Damiano, Alyssa Boraggiano, Hope Deermeyer, Kendall Brassey, Mac Moore, Peyton Regal, Amber Weatherby, all with multiple hits in that game. Freshman Liz Allen at Clearview opens her high school career with a big win, 18-0 over Open Door. She did it in the circle, and she had 2 hits at the plate. Caitlin Jennis, 3 for 3 with 2 triples and 6 RBIs and 3 runs scored for Clearview. Wow. Huge performance there. Leary and Keystone, as we mentioned earlier, both down south, both with 2 wins over the last couple of days. So big performances all the way around. We talked about those pitchers. We talked about hitters. Good stuff from the softball Diamonds.
All right, Tim, I'm going to let you handle this next part because you are the professional broadcaster. Why don't you intro the next performance? Let's talk about the Bright Smile performance.
Well, the Bright Smile performance of the week, I alluded to this earlier. Connor Bancic of the Midview Middies. They were going up against a previously unbeaten Amherst team, considered one of the best teams not only in Lorain County but perhaps in Northeast Ohio. Amherst went over to Midview, and yet the Midview Middies, they knock off previously unbeaten Amherst, and it was Connor Bancic that got the game-winning walk-off hit for the Midview Middies. You talk about a moment that'll bring a bright smile to a young man's face. I'm sure he'll remember that for a long, long time. You get the game-winning hit against one of the best teams in the county. So Connor Bancic over at Midview, certainly deserving of our bright smile performance. That's awesome. And again, for Connor, that's something I'm sure he'll remember for a while.
Well, and that was a walk-off hit, but that game was happening right across the field from where I was covering the softball game, and I was kind of following it on Twitter, and Midview built an early lead there. Amherst comes back, so they had all the momentum, and then he gets that walk-off hit in the 8th inning in extra innings. So that was seriously clutch on 2 levels, but not just for the walk-off performance, but the fact that their backs were against the wall after Amherst had come back to tie that game. So that was pretty impressive to him come through and win that game.
So, Connor, congratulations. By the way, I'm sure it brought a bright smile to head coach Radica's face as well. So truly a bright smile performance.
So, guys, I heard a lot about walk-off in that last piece, so let's go ahead and continue that theme, and let's talk about the walk-off.
Yeah, it's going to be a new segment we're bringing to the weekly episode, and it's going to be, we're going to call it Walk-Off With, and then we're going to have it with the different athletes on the softball and the baseball Diamonds. And it's going to be something it's going to be light. It's going to be something we're going to basically introduce players who we already kind of know about what they do on the field. We know what they do in the circle or the mound, at the plate, on the base pass. But we're going to kind of let you know a little bit more about them as far as their personality and, their likes, their, things they enjoy doing in their life. So we're going to kind of have something going here every week to kind of, do something fun.
I think it's going to be a fun segment. No doubt about it. We'll find out some things about these young ladies on the softball diamond and young guys on the baseball diamond as well. So our first edition of Walk Off With, again, Madison Oberg, the outstanding junior pitcher for the Amherst Lady Comets. So we'll find out some fun facts about Madison Oberg. So look forward to watching that. That's going to do it for this week's edition of Diamond Chat. Thanks to Bruce Bishop behind the camera. Shaun Bennett, thanks to you. And again, a huge thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Diamond Chat. Walk Off with Madison Oberg is coming up next.
All right, we're here with Amherst Junior Madison Oberg. Just want to ask you kind of some questions about, these are kind of fun questions for the softball video. So we'll start off with, what's your favorite food to eat during game day, before a game day?
I would say definitely mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Get the starch, get the carbs in there. All right. What's the farthest you've ever had to travel to play softball?
I would say probably the farthest we traveled is either probably Virginia.
Virginia?
Virginia, yeah.
When you were playing youth softball, what was your favorite dugout cheer?
I always like the frog one. It's like there was a little froggy sitting on a log, and then that's that.
Oh, you don't do the whole thing? No. What equipment-wise? What's the favorite bat you've ever used?
I love all my DeMarinis. I've had other bats, but I always went back to DeMarini, and I really like the bat I have now. It's a CF The CFX.
CFX.
Yeah.
Same bat my daughter uses, actually. What's your brand of glove?
I have an Nakona.
Makona?
Yeah.
And what's your favorite, memory-wise, your favorite one-on-one battle in the pitcher circle?
I would say it was definitely my freshman year that when we went to the state Final Four, and it was like so close, and it just kind of sucked because my friend was actually the one who hit it that like got the runs in Riley. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Who was it?
Riley Zana. She had that hit to like left and it scored the run and got him into like to get him ahead. So yeah.
What about on the reverse at bat? You have a favorite at bat in your career?
Not that I can remember.
No?
No.
So the pitching memories usually stick out a little better.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's pretty much it. I thank you for being the guest on this week's Diamond Chat.
Thank you.